Hi friends, Krista here. Thanks for stopping by Books and Jams today. It is my 9th BookTube birthday, BookTube anniversary. I don't know what we're calling it, but today marks 9 years since I've started this channel. April 22nd, 2016 was my first video ever. Don't go watch it, but here I am still 9 years later, and I'm so excited that I'm still doing this. I never would have guessed when I first started that I would still be doing it, but here I am because of many of you joining this community, participating by watching videos, commenting, liking, joining my Patreon, getting involved in read-alongs and readathons and all of the different things, sprints every other weekend. You guys are the reason why I am still here, so I thank you from the bottom of my heart. A couple days ago, I did put out a request for questions. I have not done a Q&A on my channel since I moved here to Richmond, which was about 8 years ago. And so I figured it was time. There are about 10,000 more of you than were here 8 years ago. Since the last time I did a Q&A. So I figure I should give you the opportunity to ask the things that you want to know about me. I have shared a lot of my life through lives and doing weekend vlogs every other weekend. So a lot of things you probably already know, but I did get a lot of good questions. So I've divided it up into some sections. So the first one is going to be personal/family stuff. Then we're going to have faith and travel. Then we're going to have my job, nannying, my full-time job. Then we're going to have hobbies and crafting, BookTube, and then reading at the end. So I will have timestamps down below for each of the different sections. I'm going to try to keep this not super duper long, but we'll see how it goes. And let me address the elephant in the room. I am still dealing with an allergy or a cold situation. I'm not sure what it is anymore. I'm taking all the medicine. Nothing seems to be touching it. It's super annoying. So I sound very congested. I feel great. I feel fine, but I'm very congested. So I do apologize for the way my voice sounds. This is not normal. It is what it is. I couldn't wait any longer to film this because I need to have it out today on my actual BookTube birthday. All right, so let's just jump into personal and family questions. A couple of you asked, I'm curious about your family. I know your brother was Black. Are you adopted? Was he? How many siblings do you have? That was from Carrie. Handy Amblings and Ramblings asked, how many siblings do you have? Are they far from you or near? Christy Nickel asked, how many siblings do you have? Sarah As You Wish asked, I'd love to hear more about your childhood, your time growing up with your siblings. So I have my mom. She lives in New York. I have one biological brother, and he lives in the Philippines, but soon is moving to the Ukraine to work at a school, to teach at a school in the Ukraine, which is scary, but he's doing his things. And for 12 years of my life, it was just the two of us, and we did not get along very well, I will admit. We work much harder at it now as adults, but for a long time, we just didn't get along very well. But then when I was 12, we adopted a sibling group of 3, Jalit, Janine, and Jordan. And Jalit is my sister who passed away about 10 years ago. Jordan passed away about 2 years ago, and his twin sister, Esther, we called her Janine growing up. Her name is Esther Janine. She goes by Esther now. Esther lives in Texas and is getting her certification to be a funeral director. She's already certified to do a lot of the different elements, but she's working towards being able to do the whole thing, which is amazing. And then when I was 15, we adopted 2 more brothers, biological brothers, Joshua and Jeremiah. Joshua lives in New York City now and has partial custody of his son, Jonah, my nephew, my only nephew. And then Jeremiah lives in California and is doing his thing as a personal trainer out there in San Diego area. And then when I was 18, we had Rachel as an emergency foster baby situation that she stayed forever, which was what God's plan was for her. So she joined my family when I was 18 and she was a newborn. So that rounds out the 8. It was kind of crazy sometimes in my house growing up with so many kids, and we never made very much money. My dad was a pastor, but then my dad passed away when I was 21, and my mom held down the fort. She's amazing. She took care of everybody, and made sure everyone could survive as an adult and knew how to take care of themselves. And it was not always easy, but she is a powerhouse. 5'2" powerhouse. So that is my family rundown. Some of these had some other questions in them. Someone asked, what's my favorite food? I don't know if I have one. I guess I'll say tacos. Like, that's my go-to. I love everything taco related. Quesadillas, tacos, chips and queso, chips and guac, chips and salsa. I do love a taco moment, taco salad. I love it. Moving on from a little bit of family, Glenda asks, give us a medical update. I know you're eating healthier and exercising. Is your doctor proud of you? Yes, I just actually had a doctor's appointment the other day, a couple days ago, and I am still on a weight loss journey, health journey. I do have a big family history of heart disease. And so with high blood pressure for the last couple of years, I knew I needed to get that under control. So I have currently lost 23 pounds and am on 2 different heart medications for my blood pressure. And my blood pressures are not exactly where they need to be yet, but they're headed in that direction. I'm making good progress. So there's the little update about that. Also health related, Deborah Brissett asks, I would be interested in hearing about how your intermittent fasting works. So I did do a 75-day challenge, which ended on March 29th, and immediately, almost after the weekend, immediately jumped into intermittent fasting, which I have done off and on before. And my goal is to do intermittent fasting for 100 days before the end of summer. So if I have a day or two where I need to skip for different reasons, I can, but the goal is to get 100 days of intermittent fasting in before the end of summer. I'm doing really well with that. How it works for me is that I stop eating after dinner, whatever time I eat dinner, and then I don't eat until lunch the next day. So it varies as far as how many hours I'm getting in the intermittent fasting, but it's usually between 16 and 18 hours that I'm fasting. And then I eat during the 6 to 8 hour window. And that's it. And it works really well for me. I miss breakfast, but I just make breakfast for dinner here and there, and then I'm good. It really works. I've lost 3 more pounds since finishing my 75-day challenge just with the intermittent fasting. So that's how it works for me. I'm not focusing as much on food at this point, but still trying to be healthier with more salads, less sweets, etc., etc. Books, ink, and paper. Lori asks, how did I end up in Virginia? Laura also asked, how many states have I lived in? Judy asked, do you imagine living elsewhere or staying? Where would you like to live? So we'll talk about Virginia and how I've ended up here. I did, Laura, live in New York for the majority of my life. My next place was Pennsylvania, where I lived for 6 years in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And then I got an opportunity to be a children's pastor in Massachusetts. So I lived in Foxborough, Massachusetts for 6 years. And that's where I started this channel when I was there. And then when I knew it was time for me to be leaving that church and moving on, I knew I wanted to go somewhere south. I didn't want any more snow or not as much snow. And I had a friend who lived here in the Richmond area, and I had been here many, many times to visit her and always said, next time I move, I'm coming to Virginia. So I just did. It was kind of a whim. I didn't have a place to live or a job when I first moved here, but I had a friend who had a guest room and she was very kind in offering to let me stay there as I looked for work and a place to live. I'm so thankful for her and that opportunity that she gave me to do that. I love the little house that I found here. I do rent. My landlord lives 2 houses over, and it's a cozy little house. I honestly don't know if I will move anywhere else. I don't see that in the near future, but I'm always willing. I'm always willing. I love traveling to new places and visiting new places, and I can see myself moving again, but I don't know when that will happen. I used to joke that every 6 years I would move somewhere new, because as an adult, my first job was at a Bible college and I was there for 6 years. And then I lived in Lancaster, Pennsylvania for 6 years. And then I lived in Foxborough, Massachusetts for 6 years. So when it was coming up on 6 years here, my mom's like, where are you going next? But I've decided to stay. So it's been 8 that I've lived here now, or almost 8. 7.5. I don't know. Yeah, it's been about 8 years that I've lived here now. and I'm loving it. So who knows if I'll go anywhere next. I don't know if I would go much further south, maybe North Carolina, but I know that I will not go back to the snow country. I cannot see that happening. So we'll see. I like that I get all 4 seasons here where I live. We do get winter, we do get some snow, but it doesn't last very long. So we'll see. We'll see if I go anywhere else. I don't know. All right. Moving on to, I guess, travel and faith. Chelsea Andrews asks, what's my salvation story? My dad was a pastor, and I grew up in church, and I accepted Jesus as my savior at a very young age. And I feel like I've always loved the Lord. I've always loved Jesus. I've definitely had difficult seasons. I know when my dad passed when I was 21, it was a definite faith shaking time. I would never say, I never turned fully away from the Lord, but I had to reevaluate everything I knew in my head about God and everything I believed about him, and evaluate if I still believed all of that. So I really took a while to kind of walk through my faith. And do I believe God is good? Do I believe God is sovereign? Do I believe God can heal? Do I believe that he loves me? All of these things that are foundations of my faith. I took the time to reevaluate and see if that is still what I believe. And it is, which was helpful to walk through, because losing my sister 10 years ago was also a sudden, unexpected difficulty, and so hard, because it was my sister and her 2-month-old baby that passed. And it was so difficult, but I had already walked through the faith aspect of losing someone suddenly. And so the grieving was really difficult, but the faith shaking wasn't there that had happened with the first time. So that's my salvation story. I was at a VBS when I was about 6 years old at a vacation Bible school. But I think I asked Jesus into my heart a gazillion times when I was a kid, until I fully realized that you don't need to ask again and again. But I used to ask Jesus in my heart all the time. Monica Ordway asked, how many missions trips have I been on and where did I go? I never was interested in doing missions when I was a teenager, much to my dad's chagrin. I never really wanted to go do missions, because in my mind that meant I would have to stand on a street corner and shout Jesus to everybody who walked by and talk about Jesus. Cold contact evangelism is what I call it now. And that was not an interest. I was not interested in that at all. But in my 20s and early 30s, when I was working at the Bible college, I had a lot of opportunity. I was the president's secretary for 4.5 years, and I had a lot of opportunity to talk with and visit with different missionaries that were coming to the school to speak, and speaking with the president himself, and like just gleaning from their wisdom and their heart. And a little spark started to light inside of me as far as missions. And then we were at a missions conference, or we had a missions conference at the school. And one woman missionary got up to speak and said something that I'm sure I had heard before, but it was like a light bulb went off in my brain. And she says, when God calls you to missions, he doesn't call you to be different than who he already created you to be. He just asks you to be who you were created to be in another culture. I was like, oh, I can do that. I can be Krista in another place. And so then I began to look and investigate and join up with some different missions projects. So my first trip ever was Romania, where I went and helped out at a camp for Roma children. It was awesome because I had grown up working at summer camps, and I loved summer camp. I loved being a counselor. That had been my main job of my life up until then. And so getting to go and work at a camp in another culture was mind-blowing. So Romania, I worked at a Roma camp. The very next year, I went to Bosnia and worked at a camp there with Vanya, who had been my roommate at the Bible school. And I brought somebody with me who had never been on a missions trip before. And I realized then that that's something that really excites me, is bringing other people on trips who had maybe some of the same inhibitions and fears that I had. I'm talking about this for way too long. So Romania, Bosnia, I went to Mexico with my little sister. I went to Guatemala with my mom and my sister. I went to Thailand. I've been to Haiti twice, Dominican Republic twice, Nicaragua twice, and I think that's it. So lots of missions trips now. I've been very blessed and thankful to spend a lot of time on going on missions trips, and yeah, it's been very cool. Beth M 1989 says, I know you love to travel. What are your top 5 countries that you want to visit that you have not been to yet? Ooh, I did not write down answers for these, so I'm just off the top of my head. I definitely would love to go to Australia and New Zealand. I would love to go to Ireland. I would love to go to Spain and somewhere in Africa. I've never been to the continent of Africa. I'm open to wherever, but a country in Africa I would love to visit as well. So those would be my top 5 off the top of my head at this moment in time. Jennifer M 2142, how many states have you visited? If you could visit any point in history, when and where would that be? Ooh, as far as states, I've done the whole East Coast multiple times. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but I've been to Missouri and everything along the way. I've been to Wisconsin and everything along the way. I've been to California and Texas and Seattle, Washington. I've been to Arizona. Oh, I did go to Colorado. That was beautiful. And then if I could visit any point in history, where or when would that be? I don't think I want to go back in time. It was rough for women back in time. It would be cool to visit Bible times and like see Jesus in action, like to be in the crowd when he fed the 5,000 or just hearing him speak. I guess I would pick that just for a short visit to Bible times to hear Jesus speak. That would be amazing. Okay, the next little mini section here is about nannying. I have 4 people who asked about my day job. So we'll talk about that real quick. Me 1000 says, I'd like to know your day job, how many children you have and their ages, and also some recs for light adult fantasy. I'll talk about that in a second. Okay, so my day job is a nanny. I have been a nanny since I moved here to Richmond. I started out also substitute teaching and nannying, but quickly realized I was making more nannying in 2 days than I was subbing for 3. So I have always done part-time with 2 families until this year. I currently watch a 7-month-old baby and occasionally her 4-year-old brother, who I had when he was a baby and now he's in school. So if he has a day off from school or is sick, I also have him. But I just have the one family, but I've had 3 different families. I had a family with 4 kids all through COVID, and I was helping with homeschool. That was my Monday, Wednesday family. I've had a family who now has 3 kids, and I had all 3 of their kids when they were babies. I watched another little boy when I first started, who now has a little brother, but I never really watched the brother, just him, and he's now 7 years old. And then my family that I currently have. So I've had 4 different families. I had one other family just for the summer that I helped out with. But yes, I've had a few different families that I've worked with, and I love it. Tracy Beasley asks, have I ever been married? No, I am perpetually single. Lord and I have lots of words about that. Not by my choice. It has always been my dream to get married, and that's just never been the path my life has taken. Okay, Holly asks, when the kids you nanny age out of needing your supervision, how do you find another family that needs your services? How many families have you helped? So I've already talked about, I've had 5 different families. Some of them have been word of mouth. There's also a Facebook group in my area called Mama Needs a Sitter. And so I have posted what I'm looking for on there and got a lot of response. I think because I'm older and I have so much experience working with kids, it helped me to quickly find a family. And that's how I found my current family, through that Facebook group. The summertime family was friends of one of my families that I work with. Yeah, it was word of mouth, and that Facebook group is the way that I've found my families. Miss Virginia Rose asks, how long have I been a nanny? I've already answered that. I've done it since I moved here, so about 8 years. Moving on to hobbies and crafting. Lori Elliott asks, what is a hobby that you haven't tried but you want to? Ooh, I really want to learn how to do macrame and embroidery. I haven't tried it yet, but I just really think some of those macrame wall hanging things are really pretty. And embroidery, I feel like, is something that I will really take to once I learn how to do it. I just haven't stop to take the time to do it. Pat Loves Cozy Books asks, do I do any crafts? Why did I move to Virginia? And besides reading, what TV shows do you watch? So I do crochet. That is my only main craft at the moment. I'm also working on a diamond painting. I guess that's a craft. I already talked about why I wanted to move to Virginia, to get out of the snow. And besides reading, what TV shows do I watch? I'm a reality TV junkie. I love the Love is Blind. For a long time, I was a huge Bachelor Nation person, but I've kind of stepped away from that. I'm not really watching. I haven't watched the most recent seasons of The Bachelor or Bachelorette, but I did for a long time. I love all the cooking, baking, Great British Bake Off. I love all the baking shows. I can get behind and watch those. But I also love like Sweet Magnolias and Virgin River, the dramas that last over seasons. And then very recently I got introduced to some K-dramas and I've really enjoyed watching those. So that has been a recent addition to my TV watching. But I also go through seasons where I binge the 30-minute sitcoms. So I've done a New Girl binge, Friends, The Office, Parks and Rec, Kim's Convenience Store. Yeah, all of those 30-minute like short ones I like to watch while I'm cooking dinner and stuff. But once I start, that's a binge that takes over my life as well. Mama Mac Reads asks, if I could have a dream, what would it be? And will I ever post on Krista's Joyful Journey again? I used to have another channel called Krista's Joyful Journey, and I do plan on posting there again. So stay tuned. I just haven't done that in a long time. And if I could have a dream, my dream has always been to be married and have a family of my own. And I don't know if that will ever happen, but it is still a big dream of mine. So that's what I would say for that. And then Catherine Stevens asks, my favorite hymn to sing. I got this question when my mom was here. And so then we just had so much fun, like going through different songs. I think when I was little, my favorite hymn was Count Your Blessings. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your blessings, see what God has done. I should not be trying to sing with this congestion, but now I love Be Thou My Vision is one of my favorite hymns. I love Be Thou My Vision. It's so beautiful. The melody is so beautiful, but also the words. So I would say Be Thou My Vision. But I also love Great Is Thy Faithfulness. It's like a standard taken from Lamentations chapter 3. Great is Thy Faithfulness. Their mercies are new every morning. I love that hymn. And then another family favorite is It Is Well. It was played at way too many of my family's funerals for a long time. So it always makes me emotional, very emotional when I hear that song. But I do love It Is Well. All right, we are moving on to BookTube questions now. Lena's Bookshelf asks, first of all, favorite adult beverage, Moscow Mule. If I have a choice to get a fancy fun drink, it's going to be a Moscow Mule. Or a margarita if I'm having Mexican. Flavored margaritas, even better. With sugar on the rim, not salt. What is one thing you would say to a small booktuber? And what is your favorite BookTube memory? And what is your biggest bookish pet peeve? Okay, lots of questions here. One thing I would say to a small booktuber is continue to be yourself and continue interacting on the platform. So find other people who are starting at the same time as you. Look up BookTube newbie tag. Find people who are about the same size as you and make friends. Comment on their videos. Comment thoughtful things on their videos, not just great video, but like interact with them on their videos and interact in the comments in your videos, because it really is all about the connection that you're going to form between you and your subscribers, but also you and other people who are starting at the same time. It's just, and if you have the opportunity to bring that friendship off YouTube into like Marco Polo or Voxer, do buddy reads, make connections, because that is what will keep you around longer. What is your favorite BookTube memory? I think for sure it's going to be the first time I met my besties in person when we went to Asheville, North Carolina. Just that first in-person meeting with these women who had become so important in my life because of our connection and conversation and friendship that we had been building off YouTube, but like not in person yet. Like getting to see them in person and hug their necks was so special. I just love that. And I don't know that that's actually BookTube, but Another favorite booktube memory is when Katie and I first started talking about middle grade March, because Katie's channel took off. Katie and I started very similar times, but her channel took off and mine was like a slow plodding along growth. So I watched her channel for a long time before ever really interacting with her, and just loved Katie as a person. I thought we would be friends someday. So when we first started talking about middle grade March and like realizing how much we did connect was just so cool. That was such a fun memory as well. And then what is my biggest bookish pet peeve? I don't love deckled edges. I don't love when the paperback has that one little slit that doesn't match on the cover. I don't love that. But I can't think of anything else that's like super annoying to me. I might think of one as we go on. Pages in Chaos asks, what has been your favorite thing about being on BookTube? 100% the connections. Getting to know some of you even more when I started my Patreon, and getting to like interact face-to-face through our Zooms, having face-to-face meetups, answering people in comments and seeing people's names for months and months and years in the comments who are watching and being a part of this corner of the internet. Like, I absolutely think the connections is the best part about BookTube. I mean, originally, we all who have channels kind of start because we love talking about books and we want to talk about books with people. So then getting to have those connections where we are talking about books, but getting to care about people at the same time and people care about us, like, that's so amazing. It's so amazing. So yeah, the connections is the best part, 100%. Life with Lady O. What advice can you share for new booktubers? A couple things. Don't look at yourself. Look at the camera when you're filming. That's a pet peeve I have. But I understand because I do it too. But like, whether you're filming on a camera or your phone or whatever, like, find where the little camera is and look at that. Don't look at the reflection of yourself. I catch myself doing it all the time, so I am just as guilty. But there are people who go through their whole video and never once look at the camera. Like, remember that you're talking to other people, not just your reflection or what you see of yourself. Talk to other people. So that's some advice, but also just to be yourself and read the books that you want to read the books that you enjoy, and you will find your people. Don't get necessarily sucked into the FOMO. I'm guilty of getting sucked into the FOMO again and again over the years, but read what you want, read what you like, and don't feel like you need this. I have definitely collected a lot more books than I can ever possibly read, but you don't need this to have a channel. You don't need to have a bookish background. You need to be able to see you, so you need good lighting, and you need to be able to hear you, so you need to make sure that you're getting picked up. Every single time when I edit a video, I raise the volume on iMovie, because I know I'm just filming on my phone. I don't have a microphone. I don't have anything fancy, which is getting to another question, but I just film on my phone, which has a great camera, but I always raise the volume in editing so that I can make sure that I'm loud enough for people to hear, bright enough for people to see. I don't have fancy lights. I have daytime lights in some of my lamps in this room. I turn my overhead light on and 3 lamps in this room so that it's bright. I often try to film in the day. That's not always possible. But yeah, be yourself, read what you want, make sure people can see you and hear you, and you're good to go. And find your people. Find your people. And if you haven't done the BookTube newbie tag, if you're brand new, start with the BookTube newbie tag, because I know there are a ton of people who just search for the BookTube newbie tag to find other people who are new new to this community. So that would be my advice to new booktubers. Kathleen Maelstrom asks, when you started this channel, what was your main goal? Do you consider YouTube to be part of your job at this stage? Do you see yourself going full-time with YouTube in the future? Okay, my goal when I started was to connect with other people about books, to share about books. When I first started, I did not see a lot of other it was almost 8 years ago, so I was in my 30s at the time. I didn't see older people. I didn't see a lot of historical fiction or contemporary. Like, it was a lot of fantasy, and it was a lot of college age cute girls and guys. There were some guys too, but it was a lot of young people reading fantasy, and it still is a lot of young people reading fantasy. And I'm sure there were older people that were here. I hadn't found them yet. So I was like, well, I have a different voice that I can bring to the table. I'm a little older. I read pretty widely, but historical fiction is my favorite. Still is, even though I read a little bit of everything. So I wanted to be another voice of a different kind of reader than what I saw on BookTube. There might have been other people there, but I hadn't found them yet. So my goal was to just share my love of books, of different types of books, and make connections. I do consider YouTube to be part of my job at this point. Between Patreon and YouTube monetization, I've been able to pay off my student loan finally. My car is paid off. All of these big mega goals that I've been like scraping by for years. Because of Patreon and YouTube, I've been able to do that and to build up this library. I don't buy very many brand new books. Most everything is thrifted, little free libraries, used bookstores. But I've been able to get a lot more books than I would have if I had not had this platform and Patreon to help out. I do not see myself going full-time with YouTube in the future. I don't know that I'll ever get to that point where that's a viable option. My growth has been so slow and steady, and I'm so thankful for everyone who's here, but I definitely never had like that moment where something went viral or where I've just hit a broader audience. Like that just hasn't been the case. It's been so steady, slow, and I'm fine with that because it's not a goal of mine to be full-time YouTube. I love being a nanny. It has never been a part of my life to have my own kids, and I'm kind of nearly past that being an option at all. So getting to spend time with other people's babies and help raise them and be a part of their family in a way is something that's very special and close to my heart, and I don't want to lose that. So I don't see myself stopping my day job to just do YouTube. I also like the freedom that I've given myself with YouTube. You may notice I've never been on a schedule. I don't post every Tuesday and Saturday or Wednesday and Saturday or whatever. I post when I want, when I've got something. I just have never been one to be on a schedule because it's not my job. It's still a hobby. It has helped out in so many ways, but it's not my job. So yeah, I don't see that. I don't foresee that. Who knows? I'm not like crossing it off as a never going to happen thing, but I don't see that being I don't see YouTube being my full-time job. And then Amanda Stevens-Feeney, what advice would you give to someone considering to start a BookTube channel? What equipment do I use and I recommend? I've already kind of talked about that. I just use my phone. I use iMovie because I have an Apple computer and it's free. I thought about switching to a different editing platform, but for now I like iMovie. It's simple. It doesn't do all the fancy things, but it works for me and what I'm trying to accomplish. And then I have daytime lights, like the bright white lights in most of my lamps so that I have the lighting in my room. That's all I have. I don't have a fancy mic. I don't have a cheapo mic. I don't have anything except my phone, daytime lights, and my computer. Okay, last section. The last section is reading, and I have kind of skipped over a couple of reading questions. I'll go back through at the end, but Shannon Books Music asks, is there a historical time period or setting that you would like to read in historical fiction that you haven't read yet? And then do you have any book recs for a 3 or 4-year-old who loves to read? Okay. I searched. Last time I watched the movie The Newsies, I searched for a book that was set during that time. And there was one Avi middle grade book called City of Orphans or something like that, that talks about paper boys, paper girls, young kids delivering papers. But I want a book that's like The Newsies. I want that in my life. And I haven't found it. If you guys know of one, let me know. And then as far as books for a 3 to 4-year-old who loves to read, I'm not very good at this age. I would recommend for you to watch Chloe from Always Booked. She has tons of recommendations for this age. What I can think of is Ivy and Bean and Sophie Mouse. I know she loves those ones, but I'm not really good at that age. Also, Amy from Mother Goose Librarian is going to come to you with loads of picture book recommendations. She would be a great resource as well. But I know Chloe has 4 girls and loves that like chapter book stage of life before middle grade, early middle grade. So I would recommend asking Chloe. Y'all get serious with some of these questions. They're hard. Judy asks, what's your favorite book in each of the genres that you read? Oh my word. That's so tricky. So fantasy, I'll say Way of Kings, because I really loved the first book in the Stormlight Archives. Historical fiction, I will say The Nightingale or Hum If You Don't Know the Words by Bianca Murray. I really loved that one. Classic, I'm going to say Anne of Green Gables, because that's like an all-time fave. Nonfiction, The Sun Does Shine by Anthony Ray Hinton. Easy. Loved The Sun Does Shine. That's a few. That's a few different genres and a few favorites. J.M. Brockman asks, audiobooks are my favorite way to read. What are your top 10 audiobooks? Again, I can't answer this. I had such a delightful time listening to the Harry Potter books narrated by Jim Dale a couple of years ago. Jordan and I started that together, and we had such a blast listening to Jim Dale read the Harry Potter books. So I will say Jim Dale is a favorite narrator. And then I really loved listening to The Only Plane in the Sky, which is a nonfiction oral history of 9/11. It's fabulous on audio. Echo is another one by Pam Munoz Ryan. I don't know who the narrator is, but there's music in there. It's just a really, really good audio. And that's all I can think of at the top of off the top of my head. I increase the speed when I listen to audiobooks. So the narrator's voice is not the same as it is if I listen at regular speed. And I honestly, it's probably a failure on my part, but I don't make note of who the narrator is. I don't keep track of it. I don't even look it up. So I don't know good narrator. I don't have a favorite narrator off the top of my head because I just don't pay attention to that. I probably should because they're doing the work to make the book enjoyable to me, but I don't. So there you have it. There's a few. JFam4562 asks, what was your favorite book as a young child? A couple other people asked this as well. I remember Charlotte's Web was the first book that made me cry, and I loved that. I was a big Beverly Cleary kid when I was really little, like an early reader. I loved The Twits by Roald Dahl. I read other Roald Dahl books, but The Twits was my favorite. What else did I read as a kid? We had these character virtue biography series that I really loved. I loved the Little Miss Sunshine, Little Miss, Little Mister, Little Miss books with like, they're like a big blob. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. I liked those books when I was little. Frances the Bear. I loved her books when I was little. Frog and Toad. I loved Frog and Toad. I don't have a favorite that stands out above the others when I was a kid. I just was always a reader. Angela Luz 405 asks, what book have you read in the past 9 years that you were most surprised you loved? You didn't expect to like it, but it blew you away. I would say, I mean, I've talked about The Way of Kings being a favorite fantasy, but I kind of hoped that I would like that one. I can't think of one that like totally surprised me. If I don't think I'm going to like it, I often don't like it. All right, we'll maybe come back to that. Maybe not. I don't know. Joanna, I can't say the rest of your whole title of your name there, 1215. Do you have a book or books that had really impacted your life in a positive way? I mean, the Bible, 100%, has been a rock in so many different times of life. So I will absolutely say the Bible here. Is that a cop-out answer? I don't think so, because it's a book. It's on the best-selling list. It always has been on the best-selling list. And it's a book that I'm constantly reading off and on. Different parts of it, and I love it. So I will say the Bible. I also know I've read over and over Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. It's been a number of years since I've read it, but I remember that being a very impactful book in that I could see myself in some way in all of the different characters as far as my walk with the Lord goes. So in that book, Michael Hosea marries a prostitute, and the brother is not thrilled with it. So it's a retelling of the book of Hosea in the Bible. So I can see myself as the woman constantly turning back to my past sin and my past life, even though I have someone, the Lord, loving me and trying to draw me out from that life. I also could see how I'm supposed to be like Michael, trying to love other people unconditionally and accept them for who they are. and also the brother who was super judgmental. I've seen myself look like that sometimes as well. And so that book really made a big impact on me. I don't know if I read it now, if it would stand up in the same way, but I know that I've read it 4 or 5 times and it was a huge part of my life. So that was Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. Cindy Stevens asks, what's your job outside of BookTube? We've already talked about that. What book or books started you on your reading journey and how old were you? So I feel like I've always been a reader. I've kind of talked about that in a lot of my childhood favorites. So I feel like we've answered this one, but I was very young. My parents were both big readers and we just were a reading family. They read to us all the time. I loved the Narnia books, were some of the first I can remember my dad reading to us when we were little. And I've reread that series multiple times. So I was very, very young. I started reading at 3 before I was 4. I always joke that Sesame Street taught me how to read. My mom gets mad about that. She's like, oh yeah, us reading to you and talking about books and having books all over had nothing to do with it. It's all Sesame Street. She gets a little persnickety about that. All right, Leanne says, if you were stranded on a desert island and could only have one fiction and one nonfiction book with you, what would they be? I feel like there's got to be a desert island for dummies book out there, like Survival for Dummies, nonfiction that would teach me how to do all the things. And maybe a book like Hatchet or another book where they're stranded on an island and have to survive. Julie of the Wolves. She has to survive on her own. Books about people surviving on their own would be a super useful tool. Or something that's like a total escape. What could I read over and over? I'd have to have the Bible with me. And like maybe a bind up of Chronicles of Narnia. I don't know. That's more than one. I'm not very good at sticking to the rules. Nikki at Writing for Jesus asks, what book got you started reading? I've already talked about that. Have you seen the series about Jesus' life, The Chosen? I have seen some of The Chosen, but I'm definitely not caught up. I would like to because what I saw was so powerful. So I do need to catch up. I think I've only seen the first season. Lee Cochran asks, what are some childhood memories that you have from going to the library? I remember watching the movie Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and the Apple Dumpling Gang as part of my library's summer movie program. Fun. I know we went to the library a ton when I was really little, but I remember maybe upper elementary, 4th, 5th grade, riding the bike to my library, which was about 2 miles from my house, and coming home riding one-handed because I'd have a stack of books. I just remember checking out books after book, like checking out a ton of books, reading them in a few days and going to do it all again. So I remember riding my bike through my neighborhood one-handed because I had like a big stack of books I was trying to not drop and lose all over. And then Chrissy's Purple Library. Random questions. Do you like pork rinds? No. Have you had frog legs? No. Worst book you've ever read? Like someone mentions it in this moment and it's like, ugh, I really don't like it. Do I have any books like that? I think the one that stands out is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I tried to read it. I got like 75% through and I really disliked all of the characters. And it just gives me the ick when I think of it. I just feel like there was nothing that I liked about that book. Also, Woman in Cabin 10. I feel like I have the same visceral, like I read it. It was propulsive. I finished it. But that's what made me realize I really don't like an unreliable narrator because of alcohol or drugs. I don't mind an unreliable narrator for other reasons, but if they're unreliable because of alcohol or drugs, I don't like that at all. And that's what Woman in Cabin 10 taught me about my reading. So I guess it's good, but those 2 books stand out as ones that I really just didn't care for. I think there are a couple other bookish questions that I skipped from earlier on. I'm just going to go through and catch up on some of the questions that might have been in the midst of other questions. So Christy Nickel also asked me, has my faith changed at all throughout the years? Like changed religions or belief? No, I've loved Jesus since I was little. It's definitely changed and grown and gotten deeper and more personal as I've gotten older. Like I said, as I worked through grieving situations and my understanding of who God is, that has changed, but I've not changed religions or my core beliefs haven't really changed either. Best childhood memory. I mean, we used to go to this campground every year in South Carolina, just south of Myrtle Beach for our family vacations because flying with that many kids was not possible. So I used to go when it was just the two of us, two kids. We went when there was 5 of us, and we went when there was 7 of us. And a couple times we went with all 8 of us kids. And early morning sunrise, often my dad and I would get up and go watch the sunrise. Sometimes my brother BJ would come along. Mostly it was just me and dad. And those memories are really special. Teaching me about photography a little bit. He wasn't a professional photographer, but he loved art, and like teaching me about framing a shot and putting stuff in the foreground and all that kind of stuff. But like just that time with me and my dad on the beach early morning. And then we come back and go back to sleep and wake up with everyone else later. But yeah, those early mornings are really special childhood memory for me. She also asks, will I ever do meetups again? Yes. I do plan on doing more meetups because I love getting to meet you guys. So I'm hoping to plan one later this summer in Raleigh, North Carolina. So stay tuned for that. And then I think you've mentioned college, earning a degree. Where did you go and what's your degree in? I went to Houghton College in New York. It's a Christian liberal arts college, and I got my degree in English. I was elementary education until my senior year when I changed because I did not want to teach. I love teaching. I don't love planning, prepping, parents, like the politics of a school, all the P's. I didn't like any of that. I just liked being in front of kids and teaching, but you have to deal with all that other stuff too. And I just didn't want to do it. So I switched to English. And then my dad passed away 2 months later during my senior year of college. So it was like a blessing in disguise that I could escape into all of these books, honestly, because I was taking 4 English classes, both of my senior semesters. In order to graduate with an English degree, I had to like catch up a little bit. So I had to read a ton my senior year, and it was such an escape from life and dealing with all of my grief, my heavy grief. Whew. But yeah, so I got my degree in English from Houghton College. I think we might have done everything. Oh, the best bookstore. Books, Inks, and Paper asks about the best bookstore I've ever visited. And what my favorite book of 2025 is so far. We'll end with this. My favorite bookstore I've ever visited, I went to LA with my friend Leah, who lives here in Richmond, to visit another friend who lives out there with her husband. And we went to the Last Bookstore. I think it's called the Last Bookstore, right in LA. And it's the one that you've seen probably in pictures. They have like a big book arch. They have book windows built out of books. Like they have all of this cool stuff. It's just a mix of new and used books in there, but their upstairs part is super cool with some structural book sculpture type things, which were a lot of fun. So I guess that's the one that comes to mind first as my favorite bookstore. And my favorite book of 2025 so far, I don't know, I've got a whole basket. I've got a whole basket of them. I have pulled out The Anthropocene Reviewed, A Reader's Promise, The Appeal, The Wrong Way Home, Moon Garden, and The Wheel on the School, I think are the ones in my basket so far. Quite a few. I'm not going to pick one because I don't have to. It's my channel. But thank you guys so much for asking some questions and for sticking around for this little bit of a longer video, a little sit down video. I hope that gave you a little bit of insight into who I am, both as a reader and as a human being and as a person. And if you have any other questions, please always feel free to ask them. I'm pretty much an open book. There's not much about myself that I am not willing to share with you. So feel free to ask anything in the comments below. I love chatting with you down there. And if you made it to the end, but you don't really have a comment to add or share, put a little megaphone because we've been talking for a while. I feel like that's the best like talk emoji. I don't know, something that represents chit chat. But really, I so appreciate you all for being here and being a part of this corner of the internet, being a jamster. Someone named the people in my sprints one time, they named them jamsters, and I love that. So if you're a jamster, you've been here for 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, or 1 year or longer, I'm so thankful for you. I really wouldn't be doing this without you guys. I wouldn't. That's just the truth of it. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate you, and I look forward to talking with you in another video very soon. And here's to 9 more years. What? Maybe. Who knows? Bye.